What's up, Outrage crew? Happy Friday. Let's share this motherfucker out on the Facebook. Happy Friday. Just making a little diary entry here like Jim Acosta. Um, uh, President Trump doing a little trolling there on Twitter. You gotta love it. And if you don't, you're missing out. What up, Keshava? We're live now. All right, we shared out on Facebook, ladies and gentlemen. What's good? How we feeling out there? I'm doing good, man. I've planned on doing late night streams the past couple nights, but then I didn't get home and I'm just burnt out from the goddamn day. Um, and you know, I already have a couple beers before my stand up every night. And so to come home and have those White Claws, it was tremendous. The first night I did it, you know, and then I wake up and I have a slight little bit of a hangover. So possibly too much alcohol consumption. It was a fun stream though. I don't know. I got to figure out my schedule here. What's better for everybody? Doing the late night streams or the midday. Sometimes I like just coming on here with the fresh new energy of the day and you know, just talking out my subconscious ramblings to you wonderful people out there. But yeah, I don't have much on the docket today. Just wanted to you know, observe what's happening here with the longest government shutdown in the history of the planet, and Trump, White House lays groundwork to declare emergency, and I've been talking about on stage how, you know, it's weird to me how people can consider a border wall to be racist when nobody seems to be calling out Israel or China for their racism. You know, it's hard to get through that Israeli wall, man. You got to be kosher as a motherfucker. All right, you know, I assume there's some kind of, you know, kosher taste test where they put two slices of pizza in front of you. You got to decide which one has been blessed. This is the good one. You know, you're blindfolded and shit. Bird Box kosher test challenge, dude. And he's the wrong off of his head. You know, very restrictive on their immigration policy. The Jews make you balance a budget, I think, is what happens at the border. You did not carry the one. No entry permitted. And China, they don't let anybody in, especially if you have round shape eyes. I believe they make you solve a Rubik's Cube at the border and eat an entire meal with chopsticks without fucking it up. And not many people can make it. All right, very restrictive, extreme vetting. So, but for white people to have a border on the country that's majority white people, that's tantamount to white supremacy, ladies and gentlemen. How dare they? How dare they have any boundaries? And so, yeah, the brainwashing is so strong that people are enforcing the border laws that are already on the book. You know, it's such an absurd argument. And then, like, I heard Joe Rogan talking about how or no, it was Bill Burr. Bill Burr was talking about this. He was talking about how dumb it is that we would spend $5 billion on on this wall project. It's like, we have a $700 billion defense budget, but defense doesn't include securing the border of the country we're claiming to be protecting. You can't have $5 billion of that $700 billion to secure a border. Like, it's just so much posturing by the Democrats, because they don't. The last thing they want to do is secure that border, so their main, secret weapon voter base can be cut off, and they won't get to enjoy the delicious political fruits of those wonderful undocumented migrants coming across and documenting themselves as voters who have died and signing up for those welfare benefits and voting to ensure they continue. So everybody wants to pretend like that's not happening. Meanwhile, if you go back to 2016, James O'Keefe with Project Veritas had secret hidden camera footage when they went in and volunteered for people working in the Democratic Party. What's good, Justin Potts? They went in and volunteered for like these subsidiaries of the DNC, and James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, and they openly admitted it. These people working for the DNC were like, "Yeah, we've been stealing elections for 50 years. We just, get these illegals in here and we bust them around to the states that don't require voter ID. And yeah, man, we do what we got to do. Any means necessary." And people just overlook it like it's not real. Like that was some CGI fabrication that the Democrats just admitted they bust around illegal immigrants and get them to vote illegally under dead people's names. It's like, it's just so brazen, because the left is going further and further. I hate to get into this right-left paradigm, because I hate the quote-unquote right-wingers in politics just as much as the left-wingers, but the left is just so egregiously disconnected from the American public. That's the reason they want these third world immigrants to come in, because they're used to having big corrupt authoritarian regimes ruling over them, and in general they have lower average IQs, and therefore are unable to process what's bad about having a big authoritarian state ruling over them, or what's bad about socialist or communist economics. A lot of abstractions to process there, and they're not the best at it. They're good at other things, just not that, on average. And the Democrats know that, and that's why they want to keep that flow of immigrants coming in. Yeah, because by definition, I used to identify as liberal progressive as well. I voted for Obama in 2008. Just to explain what I'm talking to, Justin Potts said, I try to use the terms fringe left or alt left when I'm talking about the crazy lefties, because by definition I'm a lefty myself. Right. And the true definition of the term liberal should have something to do with freedom. And apparently it just does not anymore, which is so mystifying. Like, liberal is supposed to mean liberation, library, like reading liberates you, like you should have personal liberty, you should be able to live your life how you want as long as you're not infringing on the rights of anybody else. But that's not what it's turned into. Now being a liberal means you want a giant government to control how everybody else lives their life, and you want 70% tax rates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And it's just, it's so far from the original idea of what classical liberalism was. It's unbelievable that they can use the same term and claim to be in the same category. There's nothing liberal about socialism, ladies and gentlemen. That's, whatever. in their minds, the Nazis would be considered far right, but the Nazis were the National Socialist Party. That's what socialism is. It's a big authoritarian government that dictates how you live your life and steals your money. And yeah, that's why, like, I don't know. I've been trying to figure out a way to get this across in stand up for a long time, but it's just, oh, what up, Archer? Bless you, sir. Bless you, good sir. Peace be with you. I've been trying to get this idea across in stand up that this false political paradigm in people's heads is what's the real divide in the country right now. People think the Nazis are far right, or that when the right wing goes crazy, they become Nazis. No, when the left wing gets too much power, they become Nazis. The Nazis were radical leftists that went way too far with identitarian politics. That's what it is. You want to look at identity politics enforced from a top-down authoritarian system? Nazi Germany, okay? Because once you start demonizing people based on their race and sex and gender, then it ultimately leads to, well, we can't convince these people that they're evil and they need to hate themselves, so they just need to be exterminated. That's the final solution there that I'm sure Ocasio-Cortez would love to enact on the fucking straight white males of this country. But, you know, fortunately, there's enough rational people left in this country to not let that happen. But I've been trying to get this idea across that, like, you can't have the same label for libertarians and Nazis. Like, you can't call all libertarians and Nazis alt-right. It's not applicable to both people. You know what libertarians really mean when they say they want a small government is they want a giant tyrannical government that controls every aspect of your life and have concentration camps. That's what they mean by small government. It's very coded language, okay? You got to watch a lot of MSNBC and CNN to really understand the dog whistles at play, okay? And what they really mean when they say they want to audit the Federal Reserve, well, that's more dog whistling for white supremacy, okay? Because if we don't have an argument to connect the two ideas, we say the word dog whistle, and that clears it up for you. So, the Nazis weren't socialists. Don't read a history book. Listen to Rachel Maddow. Oh, Archer, you started making videos and shit? It's good, man. I mean, if you, yeah, man, if you feel like you got something to say, don't hold back. But yeah, it's just, that I think is the biggest lie that's going on that the most people believe, is that the Nazis were right wing. And so then you get the justification of this psycho communist group called Antifa, and because we're just trying to make sure the right wing doesn't get radicalized into these Nazis. It's like, that's not how Nazism arises, ladies and gentlemen. You know, you get a narcissist socialist like Macron, and he decides to top down enforce fuel taxes that cripple the middle class and you know, shut people out of the workforce. Well, that looks a little bit more like authoritarianism to me, because the fundamental ideas of free market capitalism is the furthest thing from authoritarianism you could possibly have. There's no centralized control. It just trusts people to be able to spend their own money, versus socialism, which is totally centralized and totally narcissistic that you can make all of these economic decisions for 320 million different people in the United States, and you know what, you know where the money needs to be allocated. You know that we need to have this green agenda, this this anti-human environmentalism. We need to protect the planet, and the main obstruction to protecting the planet are the pesky existence of these damn human beings, and they're the ones standing in the way of us having a beautiful, clean world. Because humans, they consume and then they pollute. There's no creation because leftists aren't that creative. There's no pollution, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Everybody keeps predicting that there's going to be some kind of violence. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I think the collectivist types, they talk big game, and they have all this violent rhetoric, and but really when it comes down to it, they don't know how to fight and they don't really want one. They would much rather sip their lattes and Mountain Dew and play Call of Duty. I feel like there's it's a lot of like posturing and attempted bullying to get power over people, and then when it doesn't work, it's like the outrage culture, like what Kevin Hart is doing right now. He tried apologizing, and he saw what apologizing gets you is the mob doubles down and continues to try to ravage you, and so now what he's doing is the right thing. It's just, I'm moving on. I'm not talking about it anymore. Deal with it. And when you do that, you take away all their power. When you stop pretending that their opinions define you as a good or bad person, and you just have stop acknowledging them and stop pretending like their opinions are more important than anybody else, and you have your own value system that you hold in a higher regard, that is their power. Their power disintegrates in their hands because, you're not shamed by our identity politics game that we're playing. That you don't feel bad that we called you these bad names. And it's like, no, if you know who you are fundamentally, and you're abiding by your own principles of morality, then you don't have to cow down to the mob, and you don't accept their paradigm, and so you take away all their power just by not participating in the game. The only way to win that game is to not play and not give a fuck what they think. And that's what people fundamentally respect, because they're never going to stop. You're never going to be able to be progressive enough, because there's always a new thing that has to be immediately accepted or you're a bigot. So it's never ending, and it's so exhausting. I can't imagine how anybody like actually tries to play by the rules of this game. What it is people that are scared that they're going to have their job on this show taken, or they're going to have some revenue stream that they've already established. They're afraid that they're going to lose that revenue stream, and they're so leveraged out monetarily. They've got like 2 houses and a car, and they're leasing and shit, and they're addicted to this status symbol lifestyle. And then it doesn't matter how absurd the rules are that get thrust upon them. They're like, whatever, I'll do anything. I'll keep it. I got to keep the job. And so they become like a slave to this ideology. And I think nobody actually takes the ideology that seriously, except for a radicalized insane small group of people, but I think a lot of people are having to, well, they don't have to, but they think they have to cooperate with it in order to keep the gravy train rolling. And yeah. Yeah, hit the like button if you like it, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Potts says, in the immortal words of the Murder Dolls, quote, "You don't need luck if you don't give a fuck. Stop caring and they'll go away eventually." Yeah, yeah. Because you have to recognize who has a valid argument and who doesn't. Like it doesn't mean that you never take criticism from anybody, but it's just if they're not coming with an argument and they're just doing this ad hominem thing where they're saying you're a racist, sexist, misogynist, and it seems like they're bigoted against fucking straight white males there, then that's not a legitimate argument to be considered. And but I'm always open to being corrected on anything that I say here. If you have a good argument, I'm totally open to it. It's just the ad hominem nonsense. You can't participate in it. So I think there's a lot of attempted bullying and trolling and posturing online and shit. But the main thing that would cause real drama in the streets would be another catastrophic economic event, which I don't pretend to have the kind of financial expertise to be able to predict when such a thing may happen, but I do know that the banks have not radically changed their policies of what they were doing that led to the crisis in '08, and they got rewarded for it. So they did not have any market forces forcing them to change, and Obama rewarded them for their predatory lending practices and their what's it called? Their gambling, derivative gambling on those predatory loans. So they got rewarded for that. And so there's not much incentive to change. And so they're going to continue making that money. And so I assume there is going to be another possibly bigger economic collapse if we don't get some radical economic growth to offset it. Now, Trump has been good for the economy, for the confidence of investors in bringing back countries from overseas and whatnot, and lowering regulations and cutting taxes. That's been good. I can only assume for small business. And so that's the only way the economy is going to grow. We got to free up these small businesses to compete with the big megalithic, monopolistic, multinational corporations that have hijacked the country, along with the banks, because the government has allowed them to do so by currying favor to them. So we got to unleash small business and give people an incentive to work hard and move up the capitalist ladder, and that's how we grow our way out of another potential crisis. Is we got to unleash that American ingenuity, ladies and gentlemen, and we got to outproduce other countries, and I believe it's possible either way. We can have a catastrophic collapse, and people can be fighting in the streets and shit, or we can get the government out of our way and grow past this problem. But I think we just got to keep speaking the truth and keep pointing out the lies of these power hungry communists and socialist idiots that are trying to institute the exact opposite policies we need to unleash the small businesses and capitalism to grow our way out of this problem. They're trying to consolidate power more and more and more, and just profit themselves on the system, and that is only going to send us the negative way. It's only going to it's only going to lead to another collapse, and more political polarization and tension that could lead to something bad. Joshua Cherry, I will not participate in your ad hominem attacks. I just won't. I'm above that, okay? Archer says, I disagree with you about drugs. I think you argue from a place of ignorance. Like I said, I grew up in a meth lab, and I know what that life is all about. That is not a lifestyle, it's an illness. What are you thinking that my argument is about drugs? I'm not advocating anybody do meth. I think meth is a horrific drug. It's probably the worst one you could ever do, I think. I think you should probably try cocaine once, though. High quality cocaine, no meth. Do some high quality cocaine, and work on your screenplay. Oh yeah, I think all drugs should be legal. But I think with the legality of drugs, you will see a drop in addiction, because there's less of a, people have a fundamental distrust of government. So when they say something is illegal, and then you smoke a little weed and you figure out it's not bad, then you're like, oh, they must be lying about all the other illegal drugs. They must not be that bad either. And there's all this misinformation on either side about the value of drugs and whatever. And there's all this like cultural programming that's put out there about like, ooh, drugs are dangerous and cool, and then that leads to the lack of information about drugs, and then people overdose and they take the wrong shit and they combine the wrong shit. But if we had legalized drugs, I think there would be less of a cool, like, it's bad to do this stigma with it. And we could just be open about the effects of the drugs, and what an intelligent dose is. And let me open the lines a little bit here. What an intelligent dose is and whatnot. And we could have a little more cultural honesty about those things. And then get the government out of throwing people in cages for the use of these drugs just because they want to perturb their consciousness. Yeah, I mean, I'm an anarchist. I don't think there should be any laws whatsoever. So, but that's that's a bigger conversation. Archer says, vegan socialists who want to take your free speech, your guns, and demonize the entire race of people. Who does that remind you of? Yeah, dude. Thoughts on the vape? It's a lot better than cigarettes or chew or nicotine gum or snooze. I've tried it all. I do love nicotine, and I need to be able to get some new pods for this. I've just been reusing the same fucking pod and filling with another juice, but these goddamn pods are so fucking expensive. Yeah, Archer, I've had periods where I've smoked cigarettes, but I felt like such a hypocrite because when I was younger, my mom would smoke cigarettes, and once I learned how terrible it was for you, I would like try to take her packs of cigarettes and hide them, or like snatch them and throw them out the window, and so I was like, Mommy, I don't want you to die, hide her cigarettes. And they make me feel horrible. I smoke one cigarette and I feel terrible the entire day. I smoke this the entire day and I feel no difference whatsoever. But I do get the nicotine buzz. I think nicotine buzz is super valuable, especially with paired with a little espresso there. It'll get you, fired up and lateral thinking at the same time. And you know, that might be a valid point because my sinuses are always a little tricky. This thing is all fucking flooded right now. But I'd rather take I'd rather take a little trouble with my sinuses than major trouble with my lungs or my pancreas. Um, I'm such a Bill Hicks fan that I have to do him justice by not smoking cigarettes and not getting pancreatic cancer and dying at 33 like Hicks. If I learned anything from Hicks, I have to learn that. So we got to find some healthy delivery system for the nicotine here. The Juul is good as far as just the portability of it, the simplicity of it, and the the quality of the hit you get with it. I like it, but the pods are so goddamn expensive that, especially out here in LA, I mean, you're gonna have to pay $25 to $30 for a pack of 4 of these things, and I can go through 2 of them in a day, easy. If I have if I'm working on a lot of creative stuff, if I'm doing the screenplay, if I'm on here doing the podcast, if I'm doing stand up, which is every day, then I'm gonna go probably through 2 of these pods at least, and I just can't spend $30 every 2 days on nicotine. So what I do is I get 4 of the pods every now and then I crack them open and refill with less expensive juice, and then pop them back together and vape on them. Yeah, that's a good point, Archer. The vape shops are full of libtards, and they will flip out if you come with Trump regalia on. So it might be a good investment just to buy like a Bernie Sanders shirt just for a joke and walk into the vape shop, and then you might get some shit for free because they're so into free stuff. No, nicotine never makes me puke or nausea. I've heard people say that, but I assume they're soy boys. I mean, this thing is horribly flooded right now. Excuse me real quick. But yeah, I also wanted to talk about, according to the American Psychological Association now, traditional masculinity is harmful. All right, competitiveness and dominance seeking, and it will lead to sexual harassment. It said traditional masculinity is harmful, and I guess the only assumption is it needs to be eradicated then. So that's, I assume the American Psychological Association gets some kind of government subsidies, and that makes sense because, the big problem for the government expansion of power is men who have spines and don't want people to take over their country. So masculinity is definitely harmful to the globalist agenda of expanding government power and opening borders. So I just thought that was funny. Competition is bad. Oh, dude. Yeah, competition is bad. And as you as you share the findings of your bullshit psychological study on social media through technology that was only available to the mass public because of, you guessed it, competition. Because Apple and Microsoft desperately want to sell you something and cut the other one out of business. That is why you can afford either of them. So, and neither of them female-led companies either. A lot of masculinity, a lot of, although it was probably a beta wave kind of dorky masculinity, but Steve Jobs, he drove him pretty hard there. And he made him build that technology that allows you to share your thoughts about masculinity with the masses. So, it just it leads to sexual harassment, dude. Masculinity, because that's the big problem, especially in the black community, is too much masculinity, with all these fatherless homes. I think they could use a dose of some disciplined masculinity. It seems to be the missing factor in their upbringing. So that, if you don't have traditional masculinity, that harmful thing, in your household growing up, then you have to look elsewhere to mass media for your representations of what a man is. And for a lot of black kids, that's gangster rappers, drug dealers and pimps, and that does not lead to healthy outcomes, ladies and gentlemen. What about toxic feminism? How is it okay to be overly womanly? Toxic feminism is less about being overly womanly and more about women pretending to be men. That's where the toxic masculinity is females attempt to emulate masculinity. That's how it becomes toxic. When women convince other women that the majesty of giving birth to another human being and being a loving mother is bad, and what's good is you need to dedicate your life to going in and working for a paycheck at a cubicle job, and then letting your eggs go bad in your ovaries, and then scrambling to try to find a husband when you're 35, and then figuring out that you can't have kids, and getting on antidepressants instead, and just having a bunch of cats. That's because you wanted to get out there. Women could do anything that men can, and but that doesn't mean they should. But it's super empowering to not take advantage of your birthright of giving birth to another to a kid and starting a family, because you don't want to be dependent on no man. Instead, you want to go and work for a man in a corporation, and if you do have a kid, take a couple of weeks off and then get right back to work and pump that breast milk in the bathroom, and because you can't be out competed. That's the toxic masculinity, is when females attempt to emulate masculinity. Or here's toxic masculinity, when men chop off their cocks and try to win the Miss Universe contest. That's pretty toxic. If anything, I think the women should be left. They should at least be able to have their own beauty pageants without men competing with them. Um, what happens when you send women to school? Send women to school, they become a bunch of sluts. Um, you talking about sluts in college? Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that effect has. I mean, everybody wants to have sex when they go to college. I don't think it's just women. But you know, the it's just so dumb, this generalization about men. You know, it's so dumb. And you know, prominent guys will just say this shit about, like, Owen Benjamin made a good point. Like, people who say these generalized things about groups that they're a part of are really saying things about themselves. Like, if you're a guy and you're like, you say things like, yeah, guys are creepy. Guys are just creepy. You know, you can't trust guys. It's like, that means you're creepy. It's like, are you exempting yourself from this definition? Because you know, not all guys are creepy. It's more it's usually the feminized guys who are putting on this fake feminine act to try to get closer to women. Those are the actual creeps, the Aziz Ansaris and you know, those type of guys. The overtly masculine guys are the least creepy. You are the least creepy. What up, Proxnoid? Yes, I will rewind myself right now and start over. At your request, sir. Um, but the most masculine guys are the most straightforward, and that's why, you know, all this demonization of masculinity from feminism isn't going to work, because there's always going to be women who want to fuck traditionally masculine guys. No matter how much the American Psychological Association says it's harmful, it still gives women the tingles when guys are traditionally masculine, and they don't sip soy, and they don't craft their behavior around what they think women want. No, you just be a man and live your life, and have a mission that you're on, and don't compromise for anybody, and speak the truth, and be honest, and be straightforward, and be straight up, and that is attractive to women. And you can't make an argument against what they're attracted to, because it's biological instinct. No matter how many frumpy feminists tell them it's wrong, they're still going to want to fuck the alpha masculine guys. And so that's why that agenda isn't going to go anywhere, because, you know, hot women, that's why hot women are not feminists, and masculine men have to stop giving a fuck about this disingenuous demonization that's happening to them. And it's not going to work, because, you know, they're not the type of people that are easily shamed either. You know, because the beta guys are just going to be like, well, the studies are in, masculinity's bad, and they're going to be showing that study to the girl they're trying to fuck, and she's going to be like, oh my god, that's terrible. I'm still not going to fuck you. He's like, what? But it's harmful. I mean, the scientists said it was harmful. You're going to fuck the guy that goes to the gym and doesn't care about offending people? That's harmful. Try as they may to get rid of their masculine competition. The cucks and the globalists shall fail. And because, you know, women, number one, hot women are not feminists usually, and the experiment of third wave feminism, it's going to die out because it makes women miserable. You know, it makes women miserable to not be with a really masculine man, to try to be independent and compete with the other masculine men, and to not have a family, and to work all the time and kill themselves to try to compete with guys who don't have period cycles, or what do they call it? Like when women get in their early 30s, they get that urge to procreate. Like, they have all these instinctual hormonal distractions built into their biology that men don't have. And so it's like, it's a losing battle to try and compete with men in the workforce, and you're just not going to be happy doing it. And that's why you see record numbers of women on antidepressants. And yeah, women are instinctively attracted to men who can provide and protect. It not only does it make them miserable to work their ass off and try to become a CEO, and not have kids. Then, if they actually achieve that, because it's not like they're incapable, there's a lot of intelligent women out there. It's mostly men at the higher end of the IQ spectrum, but there's a lot of women that have very high IQs and are very high functioning and productive. But those women are never going to be satisfied unless they pair up with a man who they consider to be better than they are. That's the secret about feminine attractiveness, is they're always going to be dissatisfied unless the man they're with is, in their mind, above them. All right, catch you later, Justin Potts. So if they're a high functioning CEO, and they're with some guy who makes less than them, that's a ticking time bomb relationship, because they're fundamentally going to lose respect for that man. And when a woman loses respect for her man, she loses the tingle. All right, and the attractiveness goes away, the sex starts to decline, and she's going to divorce him because she's unsatisfied. And it's weird. I was looking into the Jeff Bezos divorce, and man, that one's crazy, dude. That now we got a $70 billion woman out there who's single, and my message out to her is, if you got tired of being with a short Jewish man, you got a tall German here waiting for you if you want. Let's make it happen, Miss Bezos. I was thinking about how much money I would need to be committed to one woman, and $70 billion, that would be pretty close to the number, I think. But at the same time, what good is $70 billion if you can't use it to attract a bunch of new pussy? That's how I think I could keep her attracted to me. I would never make as much money as she had, but my attractiveness to other women could keep her attracted to me, I think. So she'd be having to hire bodyguards to make sure I'm not fucking on the side, and I just have to drive around all depressed in my Bugatti and just turn women down. Oh, sorry, I can't. I know you really want to. It's just faithful to Miss Bezos. So Archer says it's more of an attack on beautiful women than it is an attack on men. It's jealousy. They don't give women power, they strip women of power. Yeah, that's what's funny about, the most empowering thing a woman can do is to marry a man that's higher status than she is, and have his kids and be the head of the household for him. That's how that unleashes all of the biological power that women have to be nurturing and compassionate, and that's when they're at their best, is running a household and raising kids and being that kick-ass counterpart to a badass man, and helping him be the best he can be at the same time. It's that partnership of it. But I understand the jealousy that feminists would have toward men that are high achieving, and that, you know, are these legendary men that just go out and achieve this amazing shit, and then you don't hear as much about the wife and how great of a housewife she is and how great of a wife she is. You don't hear as much about those women in the history books because it's history, his story, right? So I do understand the jealousy that comes from that, and you want to be the one that goes down in the history books and whatnot. But I mean, it's man shit, ladies and gentlemen. It's just traditionally man shit. And if you're looking for long-term happiness, there's roles we have to play in this world. And I don't know. There are definitely exceptions. There's some women out there who just don't want kids, don't want a family, and want to, you know, be a physicist or whatever. Do it. You know. Good luck. You're at the if you're the biological exception to the general rule that you need a higher status man to be happy, and if you're at the higher end of the IQ spectrum, then give it a whirl. It's just, statistically speaking, you're probably going to be a lot less happy with those life decisions. You know, that's just you know, the opinion of a toxic masculine savage here, and my opinion can easily be discarded because of my race and gender, because we're tolerant here at Outrage TV. Proxoy says, if I married Miss Bezos, I'd only ask for $1 billion in the prenuptial. She can keep the 69. Ooh. Archer says, I don't want kids either. I would end up in jail if I had a daughter because I would be hyper protective. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want kids. Just because I want to have that experience that all my ancestors had and continue the lineage here. As far as having a daughter, yeah, I just think you got to raise her. You got to, if you're a good man and she respects you, then that's all that needs to happen, because then she's not going to be attracted to the douchebag, you know, guys that would be bad for her. And you just instill those values in her, that and make sure she understands that there's going to be all these fucked up loser guys that are going to be trying to get at her pussy, and you teach her the values of, you know, being able to identify red flags in guys, and see what they're up to, and just recognize that they're always going to be trying to bang you with the littlest investment possible, and you want to have a higher vision than that. You want to look for the guys that are on a mission in their life and going somewhere and doing something big, and you want to, you know, hold out that sexual activity, and then they will respect you more for that, and you know, attract them in other ways. And if you instill those values in her, you won't have to be over hyper protective, because, you know, she'll be able to evaluate the situations for herself, and find a good guy to be with. First red flag for me is what kind of pants they wear and how he wears it. Yeah, you got the skinny jeans with the boxers poking out of the top of them. Fuck out of here, dude. Wear some normal pants. If he's in a sweatsuit, he's just trying to fuck. He's in the FUBU, the FUBU jumpsuit, dude. That's bad news. Yeah, I don't know. I hope I have a boy, you know. But the more I hope I have a boy, I'm probably gonna have a girl. But you know, I just want a son that I can be a hyper psycho sports dad to, you know. I want to marry a beautiful black woman and have a very athletic child, and then lock them in the gym and make them shoot jumpers. You know, I want to be like the Pete Maravich's dad. You know, live out my sports dreams, son. I didn't work hard enough to achieve them. That's your job. Oh shit. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Kaepernick Jr. Oh, Jesus Christ. I hope not. Hopefully less resentful than that. I'll teach them about crime statistics and appropriate levels of police response to those crime statistics. I'll teach them about demographics and you know, racial IQ statistics, and we'll go over the data with a fine-tooth comb to make sure he doesn't have any irrational conclusions about the police department there. But I think the main thing is for any kid to have them have good values. Don't let them go to public school. Homeschooling is the most important thing because they get thrown into that nihilistic jungle system of the public school where they don't get instilled with any fundamental values, and then they end up bonding with, you know, whatever social group they make friends with, and that's where they get all their values from. And because they're spending 80% of their time with those people and not with their parents, and so they're naturally going to drift away from the value system of their parents, and it's not good. So, but that's what the state wants. They don't want the values to be transferred from parent to child, so they want you to get your child in the school system for 8 hours plus a day so they can reprogram that value system and have them be a nice little worker bee for authoritarianism. You know, so homeschooling is the most important thing if you want to have a good experience being a parent, I think. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we did an hour. I think I'm going to get out there in the sun, get some sunshine, and go make some deliveries to these assholes in Beverly Hills, and hopefully they tip me. And I got like $12 to my name so far, $5 more thanks to the beautiful man Archer. But got to get my money up this weekend, and hopefully I got some comics at the fourth wall that want to do some sketch type stuff, and so we'll be getting some sketches in, and we're gonna do something out here. We're gonna go fuck with the people on Hollywood Boulevard, and Yeah, you increased my net worth by 40% there, Archer. But don't feel bad for me. It's all my own doing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm living by the skin of my teeth out here in Hollywood, trying to make the dream happen. And so, no need to feel bad for me. It's self-imposed poverty. It's by choice. So we're living meagerly, but we're chasing the dream, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it's all about. So yeah, happy Friday out there. Go out and kick some ass. Beautiful day out here in Los Angeles. I got to go out and bask in it. So yeah, I'll catch you bad motherfuckers later. I'll put something up on Instagram, at Nick Jordan himself. I'll update the podcast stream there. Yeah, we're thinking some street interview type shit. It's gonna be fun. We're just gonna go have like some basic philosophical questions for people on the street and just see what kind of stupid responses we can get from these Hollywood airheads. So that'll be fun. We're gonna do something like that. So yeah, I'm gonna update the podcast feed on the iTunes and Stitcher and all those apps and shit. And yeah, Nick Jordan himself on Instagram, at I am Nick Jordan on Twitter, Nick Jordan on Facebook. Hit me up. What's up, Archer? And yeah, if you have any sketch ideas or anything, either comment on the video or send me a DM on Instagram or Twitter or something like that. Just write me if you have any sketch ideas, because we're trying to get some shit cooked up here. I gotta interview people that are in farmlands or cowboys or some shit, to break the stereotype that we're all racist. Well, the trouble with that is I live right in the middle of Hollywood, and so not many farmlands near me. But I get where you're coming from. That, like, that it's kind of a cliched idea to do the street interviews and whatnot. We got to come at it from a fresh angle. I think we're gonna figure something out. But yeah, if you guys have any or try to find people instead of trying to roast libs, I'm tired of those videos. Yeah, we got to find a fresh angle with it. But we'll be brainstorming over the weekend and whatnot. Next week we're gonna hit you with something fresh, something new. I gotta get back with Kevin Bennett and Igor and figure something out. But yeah, we'll be hitting you with something fresh. We just got to figure it out. If you have any ideas, hit me up at on Instagram or comment on the video here or whatnot. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Like it if you like it, share it out. Hit that subscribe button. I love all you bad motherfuckers out there, and rock it out.